Hey, this is Andrea.
And this is Amanda.
I am the sword in the darkness.
And you're listening to Girls Nerd Out.
I am the watcher on the walls.
And now our rewatch has begun.
Dracarys.
Hey everyone, and welcome to our new listeners, and welcome back to everyone else. It's me, Amanda, and my bestie, Andrea.
Hey.
And we're super excited to talk to you about season 2 of Game of Thrones. And the first episode is called The North Remembers. Just about every scene is classic in this. We start off with Joffrey's name day, which there's so much going on in this scene. This may be my favorite Sansa.
Yeah, because she's learning really fast.
Yes, like really fast. Okay, tell me if you agree with this. This writing, this Sansa is who we should have had in season 7 and 8.
Yes. I don't know where she went, but yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so it opens up and the Hound is fighting. Sansa looks absolutely miserable. And this is where we get Sir Dantos, the Red of House Hollard. Do we know anything about House Hollard?
House Hollard was working with the House Starkland, and during the Defiance of Duskendale, the Lord Darkland at the time lured the Mad King to Duskendale, kidnapped him, and did all kinds of horrible things to him. Not just him, but a lot of people. A lot of people were involved in this because, well, you know, they wanted money and they were losing out on money because of Blackwater Bay. I understand being pissed off about that, but like, you don't kidnap the king and do bad things to him. And they were all slaughtered. There is no House Darkland or Hollard. The only reason why Dantos exists is because of Sir Barristan. Barristan told him, hey, he's just a kid.
I'm so glad I asked you that because he's the only survivor.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, and what Andrew is referring to is Ares, the quote-unquote Mad King, who was tortured for years, and people just forget that always.
Pretty much.
Oh, that's really interesting. Is that why he's a drunk?
Probably. He has no family or anything.
He doesn't. Nope. And he would be shamed. Interesting. So there's Dante's lore. Love that. So he's wasted. And he's supposed to fight. And Joffrey's being really nice to him, so you know something bad's gonna happen. And just offers him more wine, which is ill in pain with like a funnel. Basically, they're gonna pour wine down his throat till he dies. And Sansa stops it.
Yeah, she basically is just like, no, you can't. And he's like, excuse me? Kind of, Joffrey's just like, I'm the king. I can do whatever the hell I want. She says it's bad luck to kill a man on his name day. And of course, Joffrey kind of, scoffs at that. And the Hound sticks up for her by saying, oh, no, it's true. It's bad luck to kill a man on your name day. And so Joffrey's just like, okay, fine. I'll kill him tomorrow, the fool. And she's like, you're very clever to notice that. He is a fool. He'll be your fool, much better than a knight. So instead of him being a knight, they make him a fool.
It shows how fast her brain is absorbing and moving. And it also shows the Hound. And that he cares for her. And he also isn't what his brother is at all. Not a bit. At this point, how much awful stuff has the Hound seen Joffrey do?
I mean, well, I did notice in this scene that it's very obvious Joffrey abuses her a lot. And like without even having to show it. So I'm sure he sees quite a bit.
Yeah. But we'll talk about it more when we get there, but the Hound isn't one of the ones that goes around looking for Robert's bastards.
Nope.
Damn, that makes me wonder if he said no.
I think he did.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll get into that. So Tyrion shows up, which, again, I love this scene. He immediately goes and greets Tommen and Marcella, and you could tell he's, the fun uncle, and he's really sweet. and he walks over and he pays his respects to Sansa, and Joffrey's pissed off about it. And Tyrion's actually trying to be nice to Sansa, and Sansa's completely robotic, which is exactly what she needs to be to survive. And Tyrion has a look on his face like, okay, it's already happened. You're already there.
Well, that's why I noticed when she looks at Joffrey to answer. That's when I noticed that that's when I was like, okay, she's definitely being like controlled badly. Yes, she's learning from it, but it's just really like sad seeing that.
It's very sad because what she says, you can tell she's said that many times. My father is a traitor. I love Joffrey. Joffrey's the king. Like,
I love it, Joffrey.
And I put in my notes, Sansa's a robot. I mean, she basically is at that point. It's really sad.
Winter is coming.
The next scene is Pycelle. He gets a white raven that winter is coming. If they got a white raven, wouldn't that make them think of the dead too?
They probably just don't think about it like the North would, because like, like in season 8 when Cersei says that she talks about how like, oh, I'll be fine because we'll just we'll finish the rest of you off with the dead, whatever the dead didn't take away or something like that. Like, I don't think she cares. I don't think anybody cares in the South because they don't think that they probably think they're untouchable.
Yeah, they're so far removed that they wouldn't have even put together that Alistair Thorne is trying to tell them about dead people and then like winter's coming. That's so interesting. So it's stated that it's been the longest summer in living memory, which I think is really interesting. It's a small council meeting. So you got Pycelle, Varys, Cersei, and Littlefinger. And Varys says the peasants say a long summer means a longer winter. And Littlefinger says they have enough wheat for 5 years. And if it lasts any longer, they'll have fewer peasants.
And apparently the peasants are heavy right now. Janos Slynt is telling her that he can't handle all these people again. And she's like, you're the city watchman. Deal with it. Like, do your job and close the gates because apparently the peasants don't belong in the city. They belong in the fields.
Unless it's season 8 when Cersei wants the peasants in because she thinks that will protect her.
Yeah, no.
How convenient. I'll never get over it. So Tyrion shows up and Cersei is incredibly annoyed. And he lets her know, oh, by the way, Dad said I'm acting hand while he's gone. And she's like, get out. Everybody get out. And he basically reads her for filth, as he should, and says, you did nothing when your son called for Ned Stark's head. And now the entire North has risen up against us.
And she's just like, well, Robb's a child. Yeah, a child that's already won 3 battles.
So she's getting some reality, but she doesn't care.
Did you notice that Tyrion whistles the Rains of Castamere quite often in this show? I mean, he does in episode 1 and 2. Isn't that crazy?
Okay, I did notice him whistling that, and I wondered why.
I mean, to piss off Cersei because she doesn't really believe he's a Lannister, maybe?
Ooh, I like that. I like that. Especially considering what she says later.
I also wanted to say that this is when he finds out that they only have 1 daughter, not 2.
Oh, yeah, and he's like, oh, great. So, Ned's dead, you lost Arya. But we do get the very iconic line, you love your children. It's your one redeeming quality. That and your cheekbones.
Everyone who isn't us is an enemy.
Next, we go to Winterfell. And basically, Bran is listening to people and their grievances and what they need. And it's a guy, and his whole fast is apparently in disrepair. And you could tell Bran doesn't want to do it. And it's funny because Maester Luwin, he doesn't want to either. So to just get the guy to shut up, he's like, "Hey, can I give you like 4 people?" So I guess that's kind of for us just to see that Winterfell still has, things going on and that Bran is, acting as, I mean,
I just
he's
thought,
the man at Winterfell.
well, I just thought it was funny how he was telling this story about how like his buildings are falling apart, and Maester Lewin's just like, you have stewards for that. Stewards are supposed to, or not stewards. The lords of the holdfast are supposed to take care of that. Or did he say stewards? I think, yeah, stewards are supposed to take care of it, aren't they?
Yeah, because that's what the Tyrells were for the gardeners. So yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So the stewards are supposed to take care of that. And he's like, yeah, but I sent all the young men off to fight Robb's war. And I'm like, it's not his war. It's, I mean, it's his war, but it's like the whole North is pissed off. Like they're allowed to be pissed. They're allowed to go to war for this. And I get him being mad too, but it's just like, so when Maester Lewin was like, here's a handful of people, you go. And Bran looks at him and he's like, well, I mean, we didn't want him here all day.
That was kind of funny.
And I'm just like, you people. I mean, I guess I understand it.
I do too, but I think Bran's doing well considering he's so young and he defends his brother. So I like this Bran. It's only when he gets weird.
Yes.
Great scene. We get a POV of Summer running through the woods. And do you want to say what Summer sees?
Summer sees the red comet.
Yep.
And it's beautiful. I think they did a good job with Comet.
I agree. And it's Summer because Summer looks into like a little bit of water and you see the reflection, and that's a good scene. It's so short, but it's cool because then Bran wakes up.
Yeah, Bran was warging into Summer.
Yeah. So Bran knows about the comet. So
yeah,
that's just really cool. And I miss those scenes. You realize we could have gotten scenes like that with Jon and Ghost.
that's why it bugs me, because Ghost went with Jon on this trip. Whatever.
Yeah, I know. It is what it is. Okay, so Hodor is carrying Bran, and there's a lot of talk about the comet. Since you made a really good point on the phone, do you want to talk about it?
Yeah. So we haven't seen Dany see it yet, but Dany sees a lot of characters see the red comet in this episode. So not only did they see it, but Dany sees it and Jon sees it. Well, I mean, they don't make it look like Jon sees it, but it appears above his head too. And I wish they would have shown Jon do it because I think they're fated together. But what I noticed online, I was Googling the red comet and I saw a Reddit post talking about a theory so Hodor is afraid to go down in the crypts. And in the books, when the red comet appears, supposedly when it appears, he is afraid to go down there. And that's the only time, not before, not after. And the red comet, it could mean many things, but a lot of people believe that the red comet is the birth of dragons. Like it's telling you that there's the birth. I mean, even Asha talks about dragons coming alive because of this comet. Like it's a sign for it. And so I believe, and what this person believes, and what everybody should believe, is that a dragon was probably born at Winterfell. Because why else is Hodor afraid of being down there? He wouldn't be afraid of Ned's ghost.
Also, why would Asha know dragon lore? She's from the far north.
Yeah.
That is so interesting because she says the stars don't fall for men. The red comet means one thing, boy, dragons.
And I don't think that Dany's dragons were the only one on this born prophecy. So
look, let there be a blue dragon being born in the crypts, man.
Yes, let it be.
Please.
I would love that. I would love that. Like you said, Rhaegar, there's a theory that Rhaegar's down there and he would have a dragon egg with him because he was supposed to have a third child. And that third child, in our opinion, is Jon. So he would have a dragon egg with him. But there's also dragon eggs in Winterfell because of Jace Valerian bringing them when he goes to Winterfell for the first time.
Oh, if it was one of Jace's eggs, that would be like, that'd be so poetic. it's very feasible that Rhaegar's remains are down there because Ned, like he's funny about stuff like that, like tradition and respect for the dead. So I think he would have figured out a way because we never know where he's buried.
Nope, and they're afraid to go down deep in the crypts, and somebody blocked it off. It was man-made. It wasn't like an accident. It was purposefully done. So there's a reason for that, and it's possible it's because of the dragon eggs or Rhaegar or both.
Both.
Also, when they talk about when Asha talks about the comet, she says it means that Robb will win a victory, or Lannister red. It's Lannister red, so they'll rule all over the 7, not the 6, 7 kingdoms. So at some point, Lannisters are supposedly going to rule Dorne too, which doesn't make any sense to me because Dorne would never bend the knee. And then, and I said, but when Cersei becomes queen and she finally rules, she only has like 4 kingdoms, 3.5.
Yeah, Jamie calls her out on it.
So,
which I love.
Forever.
He's like 4, 3.5, whatever. I like it when Jamie is like that. Jeez, we needed more of that.
Oh no, I missed that.
I do too. There's no way in hell Dorne would bend the knee for a Lannister, and we know that.
And they only agreed by marriage. That doesn't mean that they're ruled by a king or a queen. So
exactly.
A Targaryen alone in the world. It's a terrible thing.
It is bleak. We see desert. This is the Red Waste. This is Daenerys and what is the remaining group of people that are following her. This is her khalasar. And like you can see her skin is dry and sunburnt and cracked. And I want to point that out because a lot of people think that she's just like fireproof. And I actually had somebody ask me if Targaryens get a sunburn on a live stream. And I said, yeah, go look at the show. You can see. Like, she's not sunproof. She's not fireproof.
Follow your favorite podcasters on all social media at Southern Mother of Dragons and at the Princess of Dragonstone.
So I really do wish that they would have shown her with the pelt that Khal Drogo gave her that's in the book. They decided not to do that, but that's fine. But she tries to feed Drogon, and Drogon's just like, nah. And Dorea, who is very fascinated with dragons, is basically saying, like, hey, didn't your brother tell you about dragons? What did he say? And she's like, my brother didn't know anything about dragons. And so that means that since they were born, the dragons haven't had anything. So it's very dire. Because in the book, she's breastfeeding the dragons. In the show, she's not. So she has 3 dragons that won't eat or drink. And it's really sad because a horse dies. And she quickly goes over there, and so does Jorah. And she looks at Jorah like, is there any chance? And he shakes his head. And she has to say this in the show. This is the first gift Khal Drogo ever gave me. In the books, that horse has a lot more meaning, and I think they should have put that in the show. When Daenerys is given that horse, the Dothraki don't name their horses. So she just calls her Silver. And when she first gets on her Silver at the wedding, it just comes from nowhere. She just gooses her and leaps over like a big fire. And it's the first moment that you see Daenerys have courage. I really wish they would have shown that in the show because I cried when her Silver died because I know what that horse means. So I just wanted to point that out because, it's just kind of like, okay, it was a gift from Drogo. It was more than that.
They also didn't, I don't think they ever said the horses, I don't think they ever said Silver in the show.
Nope. They do not give the horse. She doesn't say her Silver in the show at all.
Also, I like her outfit here.
Oh, she looks badass.
Yeah. I don't know, but I noticed that the shoulder has like some kind of armor, like protection, leather armor looking thing.
It's a pauldron.
Oh,
God. Yes. She has a pauldron on her shoulder so that when the dragons sit there, their claws don't dig into her skin.
very smart.
I have more than one. I have like multiple pauldrons and I can't ever remember what it's called.
It's
It's
fine.
just, well, I mean, it's not like a word you use every day. Like, hey, you want to go to the mall? Yeah, let me put on my pauldron.
You're a Targaryen. You're the mother of dragons.
Another point I want to make, please, please, is she says to Jorah, I promise to protect them. Promise them their enemies would die screaming. How do I make starvation scream? I want that to have a pin put in it and a star because down the road, when she is desperate to save her people, it's always said when she showed signs of madness, ever since Karth. No, her people are dying. The horses are dying. Everything's dying. She's desperate. And that line proves it to me.
Yes, and they also say it's like when she's trying to get them to like get her ships to go to King's Landing or Westeros in general, and they're like, no, we're not going to help you, and she's just like, I'll bring fire and blood and I'll take it. That's not madness either. That's literally her house words.
Yep.
So
Again, not madness.
It's not madness. A lot of people. That's how Targaryen. Like, she's a strong woman for being able to stick up to all those awful men.
Yeah, and he's like berating her, little princess.
No, I hate that guy. I hate the show version of him more than I do the book version.
So, yeah, same. So she's asking Jorah, does this ever end? And nobody seems to be quite certain where they are and what direction they need to go. In the books, they actually find an abandoned city and stay there for a while, but they don't in the show. So Jorah says, if we go south, that's going to be the Lazarine, and they're going to kill you and take your dragons. West is the Dothraki Sea, and the first khalasar we meet will kill you and take your dragons. And she says, no one will take my dragons. And Jorah says a really good line. He says, they are too weak to fight, as are your people. You must be their strength. Which we love show Jorah. We really do. Mm-hmm. And she makes a decision. She gets 3 of her blood riders and has them go in different directions to try to find anything. And one of them is Ricardo. It's Ricardo, Ago, and Cavaro. And they take the remaining horses just to go and try to find anything. And it's really sweet because she specifically goes up to Ricardo and says, you're my last hope, blood of my blood. And he says, I will not fail you. And she says, you never have. And Ricardo says, this is a bad time to start.
Yeah, I like that line.
I do too. And that is when Daenerys is staring at the red comet. And she looks troubled because she knows it means something.
Again, she's looking at it and then they immediately go to Jon. So I think that's that's definitely something there, but yet they're not doing the right thing, in my opinion, because he doesn't even look at the comment. None of those Night's Watch look at the comment. It's so weird. It's like, why won't you look at it? It's something different that you've probably never seen before. And I would like to believe, like I said earlier, I like to believe that Dany and Jon saw it at the same time.
Half the boys you've seen training will die north of the wall.
Might be a wildling's axe that gets them. Might be sickness. Might just be the cold.
But it seems like the Night's Watch isn't paying attention to the comet because all they can do is talk about women.
Well, and a broken wheel on something that they can't push. It's just, they're going to Craster's Keep. Craster helps the Night's Watch out if he has something good in return. So like they brought Dornish wine. And I was like, man, they drink a lot of Dornish wine in this show. Arbor Red and Dornish wine.
Always. Always.
And he says, you Southerners always have like the sweetest wine. And John's just like, so him and John have some beef right away. John's just like, we're not Southerners. And he's like, anything below the wall or past the wall is south to them. And I agree. It makes sense. But he doesn't like John because John's really pretty. He's prettier than half of his daughters.
That got me. I forgot about that line. Because he's thinking like, okay, great, you bring this pretty attractive dude up here, and I've got all these daughter wives. They're gonna fall in love.
He marries his daughters and has more daughters, and you wonder the whole time, what does he do with sons if he has sons? Because you can't always have daughters. Yeah, we'll see that at some point. But what I think is interesting is that they're looking for Benjen, and he says he hasn't seen Benjen for 3 years. So where the heck did Benjen go between the wall and not Craster? You'd think he'd go to Craster's Keep. I don't know.
I would love an explanation for that.
It's so weird that he hasn't seen him in 3 years when he's the first ranger.
Yep.
And
which that kind of makes you wonder, do you think there's a chance Benjen found out what Craster was doing and that's why he didn't go there?
Yeah, but you'd think he'd alert the Night's Watch.
Maybe he found out on his last range or something. I don't know.
Oh, yes.
Or maybe that last range was specifically to try to prove what Craster was doing, and that's why he wouldn't let John go. You remember how angry he got at John when John was like, I'll go with you, and he's like, no.
Yes. That makes a lot of sense now. I bet he did see what he was actually doing, and yeah, unfortunately.
That would justify why he seemed so angry. He didn't just tell John no. He was like emphatic, like no. Because he knew he was going to do something dangerous.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And also, Mormont notices that they've been to 6 villages before they got there, and they were all abandoned. And Craster's like, well, where do you think they're going? They're all joining with Mance Rayder. He is the king beyond the wall. And I think Mormont makes the funniest thing. He's like, well, king of what? King of a frozen lake?
I mean, he's not wrong.
But that's interesting because wildlings hate each other. All they do is fight. And now they're not. They're joining together and joining forces for something. So clearly, that's why I'm like, why aren't you guys paying attention to what's really going on here? And yeah, who cares if because Mance Rayder used to be a man of the Night's Watch. He broke his vows and betrayed his brothers.
Yeah, and we put betray in quotes.
Yeah.
You know, me and Andrea do. Because, I mean, listen to the audiobooks or read the books. That's all I gotta say. You get a lot more.
Yeah, he's an interesting character in the books, and I wish they would have. And they picked a great actor for him. I wish they would have furthered it more.
Yeah, the actor that's Mance Rayder is Saruman in Rings of Power. If you know, you know. All right.
Oh, also, one of the daughters, or wives, I mean, she's a wife. It's Gilly, if anybody cares to know that yet. Gilly is one of Craster's daughters / wife, and he asks her if he keeps his wives and daughters safe, and she says, our husband keeps us safe. Better to live free than to die a slave. I like that line.
Okay, let me point this out, because I made a note. Gilly says that robotically. Like, she doesn't even have to think about it. Kind of reminds you of Sansa.
Yeah.
Programmed, afraid.
A lot of adults in Westeros are just terrible.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, people.
Also, if you look or touch any of his wives or daughters, you're going to lose a hand. And he definitely wants to cut off John's hand. Or no. He wants to cut his eyes out.
Yeah. I mean, he has pretty eyes.
Poor John.
Yeah. So Craster's giving Mormont shit during this conversation because he makes the comment of like, yeah, the king beyond the wall, that's your friend. And Mormont's like, that ain't my friend. I mean, that's kind of how the conversation is. And that's how you find out he used to be in the Night's Watch. And then Craster's like, Don't it make you jealous, old man, to see me with all these young wives and you have no one to warm your bed? Ugh.
Yeah, because it really depends on how young he gets with them. If he's anything like Walder Frey, which I think he is,
Yeah.
then he gets with them pretty young.
And that's his daughters, man. And like Mormont just looks away and all he says is we chose different paths. No shit. I mean, look, George is not afraid to write about incest. Just
Yeah.
just know that. So in the next scene, it's basically Mormont just laying into Jon, which rightly so. You have to remind Jon, hey, hush. And he says, you want to lead one day? Then learn how to follow. I was just going to say that's good advice.
It's good advice, but I felt like this was like the blood of the dragon going into Jon because he's a fiery one in the beginning, and then he loses that fire. So it is
I love
what it is.
that. I love that. That's so cool, Andrea. I love that so much.
There's no way that man's not a Targaryen. Just no way.
You know, we have so many theories about when Jon wakes up, which he obviously is going to.
Yeah.
And one is that he's going to be a lot different, and me and Andrew are hoping that he'll have a white streak of hair. So, yeah, we're just putting that out in the universe.
The night is dark and full of terrors of men, but the fire burns them all away.
So next, we cut to the Princess of Dragonstone's favorite place, one of them.
One of them, yes.
Dragonstone! Yay! Funny enough, that is that is like the beginning reason that me and Andrea became friends is because I saw her name and I'm like, wait a minute. Princess of Dragonstone. This is one of my people. And yeah, she's my best friend. So yeah, Southern Mother of Dragons and the Princess of Dragonstone. People think we planned that, by the way.
Yeah, it's funny.
Maybe I love that.
Did, subconsciously.
Probably. Or maybe it was the seven, which leads into...
Oh, God. This scene made me laugh so hard because Stannis is so serious, and I think it's funny.
Okay.
He does a good job this episode.
He does. I'd like to preface this with the actor that played Stannis is kind of Stannis in real life. He just showed up for the audition. He never fully understood any of it, and he doesn't do cons or anything. Like, which is very Stannis, actually. I'm sorry. It's just funny because he's just so serious. But this is a big scene because they're burning the seven, which is, the common religion of Westeros. And it's 7 different, what are they? What were they made out of? Wood, probably? I'm not sure.
Yeah, they're called idols.
Yeah, and they're burning them, and this is when we meet Melisandre, who looks beautiful.
She was very confident in this scene.
Oh, yeah. For a first scene?
Yeah.
That's a badass first scene, man. I mean, come on. You hear her voice, and she's talking about, like, burning the seven and R'hllor, and the night is dark and full of terror. All that comes in.
The prince who's promised prophecy, and the Grand Maester was the funniest part because he just was like, oh my God, you're spitting on the gods of the seven. And I'm like, I'd spit on the gods of the seven.
Yeah, me and Andrea don't like the seven at all.
I like his Maester. I mean, he doesn't really survive long, but I like him, and I felt bad for him, but it's kind of funny watching him come running and like, you can't do this. Like he was having it.
I kind of want to insert something in here. In the book, Maester Crescent he's basically a surrogate father to Stannis and the other boys. And you get so much more about him. And it gives the weight of what happens later tremendous more amounts because we get his POV. But I'll just say he cares very much about Stannis. I'll just say that.
Oh, but in the show, it doesn't seem. I mean, he kind of scoffs off because like when Devos is like, "Well, this is this is our king or whatever," and because he was like telling Devos, "Hey, we need to stop this," and Devos was like, "I can't. He's my king. I got to do what he does." Kind of attitude, and he kind of scoffs at it and is like, "All lords want a coronation now." He's not wrong.
No, but Crescent is the one that gives us kind of the backstory about the Baratheon brothers.
True.
I mean, he's the one that kind of, basically says like Robert, wanted the throne, but once he got there, and then Renly was the one that was always like, look at me, look at me, look at me. And Stannis was always the one that was too serious. Okay, it's a huge mistake. This was not in the show, but it's Maester Crescent that says, Robert was true steel. Stannis is pure iron, black and hard and strong, yes, but brittle, the way iron gets. He'll break before he bends. And Renly, that one, he's copper. Bright and shiny, pretty to look at, but not worth all that much at the end of the day. I love that. Obviously, hey, there's no place to fit that in, really, but I wish somebody would have said that because I really like that line.
Well, and they focus too much on the "I hate my sibling" situation.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
We march to victory, or we march to defeat. But we go forward, only forward.
They're sitting at the painted table, and Stannis wants to write a raven. He wants to send ravens to the kingdoms because Ned Stark only gave him one and didn't send it out, and he said that was a mistake. And he's talking about how he doesn't, because they're trying to say he needs to go and work with Renly. He needs to be with Renly because Renly has like 100,000 men, and he doesn't want to make peace with Renly.
Very true. I'm going to ask you something really quick.
Yeah.
When Melisandre says, in the ancient books, it's written that a warrior will draw a burning sword from the fire, and that sword shall be Lightbringer. Who's Lightbringer, Andrea?
Drogon.
It's not. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's not a sword.
Why do they think it's a boring sword? I
I don't know. It's obviously Drogon. Drogon is Lightbringer. I'm petty, Andrea. I just had to say it. I'm petty.
John's important, I believe, but I think Stannis is important. All these people are important. They're just not, like, Stannis isn't the prince that's promised. Neither is John. John is something, but he's not the prince that's promised. And Dany's already done a lot of that prophecy anyway, so it is what it is.
It is what it is. I
But-
think Stannis will take Winterfell in the books. I think he will.
Yeah, well, there's nothing there. When he got there was nothing there, so he'll take it. Yeah.
Yeah. He's got a purpose too.
Yes, he's important, and I believe he's in the flames as well, just like everybody else that's seen in it. I believe it because, again, I believe R'hllor is real, just like you do. So yeah, in this letter, he's talking about how the kids, Joffrey, Tommen, and Myrcella are not legitimate, and that they're the kids of Sir Jaime Lannister, the Kingslayer. Make sure you put the Kingslayer. He put the Sir back in. And then that he doesn't want to make peace with Renly, and he says that Joffrey, Renly, and Robb are all thieves. They stole. They can't be kings. Renly definitely can't be king. I mean, he could at some point, but he can't right now. Robb is a pretender. Joffrey is a pretender. Like, he just hates everybody.
What's really interesting about this scene, and what I took away from it the first time I watched it, is Stannis is always going to be level and fair because he says, put the Kingslayer in there, which is true, but he also says he's a knight, put Sir. That's Stannis. You're just not going to get, like huge amounts of anger or passion or whatever. So when people ask me if I think Stannis would be a good king, I say yes, because he's just going to be balanced. I mean, is he going to be fun? No, but that's Renly. I honestly think Stannis would make a much better king than Renly.
Well, yeah. I mean, Stannis also has a very strong military mind. And now I'm not one of those people that believes that you have to have a strong military mind to be a leader. You can have a master of war for that. You don't need to be in battles all the time or know anything about battles to lead a kingdom or 7 kingdoms. I don't believe that. But that's one of his strong suits. Plus he is the rightful heir to the throne because again, Joffrey, Myrcella, and Tommen are illegitimate. They don't belong on the throne. He is the next in line because Robert didn't have any true-born sons. Renly has a claim, but he's like way later in line. So,
but Renly has been finessing relationships this whole time, and Stannis hasn't, and that really benefited Renly. That's why he's got 100,000 men. He was
yeah.
already talking to the Tyrells, and he's much more well liked in Westeros. And also, it said in the books that Renly looks like a young Robert. So that he's got that going for him, because then people remember, like, oh yeah, you look like young Robert, because people love nostalgia.
My husband is my king, and my king is my husband.
So basically the Grand Maester wants to make a toast to the one true God. And he's faking it because, well, he has to deal with it. He's not happy about it, but he's like, hey, we're going to toast to the one true God, which is R'hllor. And they drink wine. They all have wine and they all look around. It's kind of an awkward scene because they're all like, what? And then, cause he was just complaining on the beach, we shouldn't be doing this. So it's like, okay, I'm side-eyeing you. And Mel's just like, ha. because he drinks it and he dies. He starts bleeding and dies, and that's a horrible way to go.
Davos sees him put the poison in his glass, and that's why Davos says don't. And he does it anyway. And I don't know if it's the tears of Lys. I don't know what poison it is specifically. I'm sure somebody on Reddit does. But either she has built up an immunity to the poison, or she saw it in the flames and took an antidote before.
He took it. She saw it in the flames, I bet.
Yeah, probably yes. And so she knew she was going to be poisoned, so she took an antidote so it does not affect her, and he dies seeing that she is unaffected.
Yeah, she's pretty confident. I really liked that. She was.
Yep. She is unfazed, and she just says, the night is dark and full of terrors, old man, but the fire burns them all away.
Yeah.
And he is gone. So, I mean, if that's not a pretty powerful message, I don't really know what is for everybody that was watching that. Because it makes her look like she knows everything, which she does know a lot.
She knows a lot, but she misconstrues a lot of her stuff.
Yep. Because she wants the answer so bad. It clouds her vision. You are correct.
How can a man be brave if he's afraid? And that is the only time a man can be brave, he told me.
So next, we see the Stark camp, which is massive. Massive. And I just put a note. Robb really should have won. Well, anyway, I love what Jamie said. So Robb goes to see Jamie, who's a prisoner. And he says, King of the North.
Yeah.
He's just so sarcastic. He says, I keep expecting you to leave me in one castle or another, but you drag me along. Have you grown fond of me, Stark? Is that it? I've never seen you with a girl.
Jesus Christ.
But Robb makes incredible points in this conversation. This writing is 10 out of 10. So Robb makes the point of, if I left you with one of my bannermen, your father would know within a fortnight, and my bannerman would receive a raven saying, release my son and you'll be rich beyond your dreams. And so Jamie's like, so you don't trust your own people with your life? And he says, I trust them with my life, just not yours.
Uh-huh.
And he keeps calling Robb a boy over and over again. And Robb says, you insult yourself, Kingslayer. You've been defeated by a boy. And I think that's badass. And then, do you want to talk about Grey Wind?
Oh yeah, he uses Grey Wind for intimidation. Like he gets in his face and everything, and like snaps at him, and then disappears. I really like that.
Okay, I want to ask you this. So, at the very end, when he kind of like pushes Grey Wind to go snap at Jamie, yeah, he like touches him. But like when Grey Wind shows up and starts growling, Robb hasn't said anything. You know what it kind of reminded me of?
Hmm.
It reminded me of a direwolf version of when Daemon has Caraxes just show up and like he said nothing. So it kind of makes me wonder, can Grey Wind feel what he's feeling?
I
I've got a lot of questions.
I don't know if it's possible that he warged into him, but I think it's a feeling situation because they do sense stuff, you know. So I believe they sense stuff anyway.
I mean, this scene makes it seem like it
Yeah.
because if he's not warging, which his eyes don't roll back in his head, then that means he's got a relationship with Grey Wind where Grey Wind knew to show up, to start growling, and to even snap at Jamie, but don't break the skin.
Yeah.
It's giving Dragon Bond, but with a direwolf. So, I mean, you know me, my head goes down a magical animal path. I have to.
Oh yeah, no, I truly believe he felt what Rob was feeling.
I think so too. And it's a great scene. Oh, I have to say this too, because they're talking about Tywin and like Jamie's trying to like brag about his dad. And he says, you think my father's going to negotiate with you? You don't know him very well. And Robb says, no, but he's starting to know me. And Jamie says, 3 victories don't make you a conqueror. And Robb says, it's better than 3 defeats.
Yep.
Robb has some savage lines. Savage.
A lion doesn't concern himself with the opinions of a sheep.
All right, next we go to Tyrion and Shay.
Yeah, the city stinks like dead bodies and shit is what she said.
Yeah.
And I like how Tyrion says, yeah, it's pretty corpsey. I'm like, well, yeah, a lot of people die in the city from like sickness, from being hungry to being murdered.
Which it gives you an idea of King's Landing. And what else is interesting, though, is in the beginning of this scene, she's telling the truth. She thinks it smells like death. But once she walks back inside, she immediately goes back into character and basically says that the stink of the city, she loves it. It makes her want to have sex. That was Shay, like, realizing for a moment that she was actually telling the truth, and she just goes right back into, you know, exactly what Tyrion wants her to be.
Tyrion basically says she can't trust anybody in the city and everyone is a liar. And I'm like, you are fantastically correct on that.
Mm-hmm. Something else in that scene, a lot of people have said that the dress that Shay has on is the same pink dress that Daenerys has on in the first episode. And I actually paused it a bunch of times and got some pictures. It's almost identical, except Shay's dress has fabric in the center that has a pattern. So I want to bring that up because I want to mention something later. I don't think it's the same dress, but I think it is the exact same style.
Huh.
Yep. And that's supposed to be the common dress of women in King's Landing. That style that she wears that like hooks in the back. So we see that lots of other times. But Michelle Clapton wanted to have like one standard like dress that just like everybody wore. You know, it'd be like for us, it would be like, I don't know, like a shirt and jeans. and that is the common dress that just like anybody wears. And if you have money, your dress would have fabric with a pattern on it, and you would have jewelry, and the dress would be belted. So later on, Shay has a belted dress, and it shows that she is moving up. Little costume side note.
Knowledge is power.
Power is power.
I do want to say what I found interesting about that scene is that Cersei has friends in the North. So I don't understand how she has friends in the North then, but then when she's looking for Sansa and those little friends in the North don't tell her that she's there.
I put a note. I said, who are her friends?
Yeah. How does the North have any friends with Southern people? They don't even like the Southern people. They don't even like foreigners. So it doesn't even make sense. Like, I feel like they messed up there too, because I'm like, I get that everybody, like Baelish, Varys, they all have friends somewhere, right? They have like little people that tell them things. And I'm not saying the North is excluded from that, but like when Sansa is in the North with Ramsay, how come she doesn't try to get her when she's with Ramsay or when Jon takes over? Like, I don't understand.
I don't know. You don't think she means Alistair Thorne, do you?
That could be possible because that could be possible.
That's all I got. I can't think of anybody else.
But Alistair Thorne is only hangs out at Castle Black, so
yeah. I don't know. I have no, unless she's lying.
Well, yeah, that's possible. She's a great liar, so
you know, we're probably giving more thought to it than they did.
Yeah. Well, and this scene is interesting because it shows, you know, like who has the most power. So it's possible she's probably lying.
Well, I mean, she gets pretty pissed off because of what he says. He's being pretty bold.
He's got some balls. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
And I like that he created his own sigil. That's probably my favorite part of that scene. Plus her dress.
Yeah, she looks beautiful. But he gets offended because she starts talking about how he was in love with Kat, but she married somebody else. So he gets defensive and pissed, and he alludes to Cersei banging her brother. And she doesn't like that very much. And this is when we get the knowledge is power. And then Cersei tells her guards, sees him, cut his throat. Wait, I've changed my mind. Let him go. Step back 3 paces. Turn around. Close your eyes. Power is power. Ta-da!
Yep.
Which is a very good point from both of them. You're right. He's got balls to bring that up. Especially with Jaime, like, possibly being dead. He's a prisoner and all that.
Winter is coming.
Next, we go back to Robb's tent. And he is talking to Alton Lannister, who I assume they captured. And he wants him to go tell Cersei or Joffrey or both his terms, which are actually reasonable. He says, first, your family must release my sisters. He wants his father's bones returned, and also the remains of all who died in his service so they can be returned, which is actually really sweet of Robb, so they can have proper funerals. And he says, third, Joffrey and the Queen Regent must renounce all claim to dominion of the North. From this time till the end of time, we are a free and independent kingdom. He's saying, like, that's not bad terms. It's actually not.
See, and, you know, I like that they want to be a free and independent place, just like Sansa wants it that way. So it makes sense.
It does make sense. And, you know, they're too prideful to give a kingdom away. But, you know, knowing what we know, it would have made a lot of sense to just let them be, because he's saying, like, if you'll just make us independent, then I'll stop.
And the King of the North only wants to rule the North. Just like the King of the Iron Islands just wants to rule the Iron Islands. The whoever of Dorne just wants to rule Dorne. So, like, let them be separate.
Yeah, and it's insane because just like a number, like 7, is the reason they won't.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to be, you know, the 6 kingdoms, the 5 kingdoms.
Winter is coming for him.
Next, we have Cat. Now, Cat is actually making a good point this time. She's like, you don't need to trust Lord Greyjoy, which he does not. But he's listening to Theon more than Cat at this point. And what I find interesting is when Cat realizes that Robb isn't going to listen to her, she immediately says, well, I'm going back to Winterfell. I'm like, okay, so you're mad that he's not doing what you say. And then you remember you have 2 other kids. Then you say you haven't seen Bran or Rickon in months.
But she gets mad because he can't just trade nothing for the daughters. This is the whole reason why I can't stand her, because she can't just expect her daughters back right like this easily.
Exactly. And like, I'm sorry, but the war is it's just Cat Tully. That is the war. Because like she understands you got to trade something for them, but then like she doesn't think you have to, and then oh, by the way, if you're not going to listen to my counsel, I'll just go back to Winterfell and remember that I have 2 small children.
Yeah, I think that was just her trying to guilt trip him.
Yes, it was. That was her throwing a half hissy fit. That was her being manipulative, and nobody can tell me any differently.
You know, she says that there's a million rats in King's Landing, and I'm like, yeah, because there's a lot of dead and nasty stuff over there. King's Landing just needs to be destroyed.
If you think this has a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention.
I have been waiting to ask you about this. Next scene, King's Landing, throne room. Joffrey is having extensive work done. What do you think?
I love it because he makes a comment about the Targaryens. He sticks up for the Targaryens.
He does. He sure does.
Which he has impeccable taste in general. Like the man, a kid, not man. Like he dresses impeccably. He knows how to dress. He knows how things are supposed to look. He doesn't like the vines so that's why I'm like, you know, when he marries, if he actually got to marry and have a long life with Marjorie, he would hate it because all they do is talk about their gardens and their roses, and he would hate it. He says that they had good taste. The Targaryens had good taste, which they did. And so does he. So I think that's great.
Look, it's great because he says, say what you will about the Targaryens, they were conquerors. That is a seat for a conqueror.
Yes. And the room shouldn't look like a flowered room.
Yeah. Who made that decision? I kind of wonder. Cersei?
Cersei, probably.
Because Robert wouldn't give a shit.
No.
The only thing Robert cared about was that the dragon skulls were put down below. So I guess he wanted.
Feel like Joffrey would have changed the throne with the dragon skulls just because.
You know what? That would actually fit. Because he thinks Targaryen history is cool, and he like you always say, he's the one that asked about the dragons. So
and he talks about, I mean, yes, he makes fun of Rhaenyra's death, but he talks about Rhaenyra's death. So I think he knows. I think he was very knowledgeable on the history of them, and and honestly, I want to see what he'd be like with a dragon, like around a dragon.
That's a really good point. And he'd be dangerous as hell, but it'd be fascinating. So basically, this scene is Joffrey letting Cersei know you don't have power. So it does make sense. If she had vines and flowers, he's getting that taken down. He's making the throne room his. And he finds out that they don't know where Arya is. So that's another thing that's making him go, oh, great. Thanks, Mom. So we have one, whatever. And he says that he heard a disgusting rumor. He'd straight up ask her about it. And she actually makes a mistake because he said, I heard a disgusting rumor about Uncle Jamie and you. And she says, our enemies will say anything to weaken your claim to the throne. And he notices because he says, it's not a claim. The throne is mine. So, and then she's like, of course it is. No one believes foul gossip. And he says, someone believes it.
Yeah, and he also mentions that his father had other children.
Yep.
So he's not an idiot.
Oh. He gets riled up and insults her and basically says, I'm asking you if he was with other women when he grew tired of you. How many bastards does he have running? And she slaps him. Probably not the best idea. I get why she did because she's angry and that's her kid. But honestly, she's lucky that he didn't, I don't know, have somebody pull out her teeth.
Well, he said this was punishable by death, so he shouldn't do that again.
I'm surprised he didn't have her whipped.
Tears aren't a woman's only weapon. Have I shocked you, little dove?
Littlefinger's brothel.
Yeah, Rob is training or trying to, not really training. I called it training, but it's more like she's starting to be like him a little bit, like she's learning.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really like this sex scene. I don't know. I know why they needed it in there, but I'm just like, so many needless sex scenes in there.
Yeah. And the story is enough to get people to watch. So it's another sex scene. And we're just meant to see that Ross is like, wait a minute, hand of the pimp.
Basically. She's doing a good job. I mean, she's.
I'm sorry.
But basically, this is the calm before the storm because the city watch comes in and it's time to kill the illegitimate children.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Sir Janos Slint can fuck off. I'm really angry with this scene because, I mean, it's a good scene. They do a very good job. But I'm sorry, the city watch killing and murdering, slaughtering children, dragging kids out of their homes, not just from this brothel, but you see them take kids, older kids, little kids, babies. I mean, there's ways that they hold babies and they just they just kill them, drown them. I can't. Like, I don't understand how the city. Why I get that the king said yes, do this, but no, I would quit. I'd be like, bye.
Yeah, that's why when we were talking earlier, I was like, "Do you notice the hound's not doing any of it?"
Yeah, he's the only good Kingsguard / whatever.
Janice Lind is a piece of shit. So here's my question though. So what they're doing is they're killing all of Robert's bastards, and Joffrey wanted it done. How did he know where they are?
Probably that book, or demanded to be told all the bastard children.
You know what? I bet Littlefinger told him.
Littlefinger, or I don't see Varys saying this was a good idea, so I think it was probably Littlefinger.
Yeah, Littlefinger would have known. I mean, one's in his brothel, so yeah, I'm gonna say it's that. It's really sad because Megan is at the brothel and her little baby, and it's just like very brutal. And Janice Lind is disgusting.
Valar Morghulis. All men must die, but we are not men.
So we go to the next episode, which is the Nightlands. Basically, this is us getting to know that Jaqen H'ghar is not just like a background character. And he makes sure when he tries to get Arya's attention, he says boy, because he knows that she's pretending to be a boy. And he's trying to get her attention. And then the other two are just absolutely disgusting. It's Rorge and Biter. In the books, Biter has his teeth like shaved down to points, and he ends up like basically biting off part of Brienne of Tarth's face. You're welcome for that, everybody.
Yep.
Sorry, not sorry. Basically, the other two are awful, and Jaqen's like, I really want some water. It's not my fault. I'm stuck in here. Which, the fascinating thing about that is that Jaqen Hagar was in the Black Cells. A faceless man is not going to be in the Black Cells unless they want to be. And there are theories about that. There are theories that Jaqen got put in the Black Cells on purpose to rescue Ned.
Then it's possible that the faceless men killed Maegor the Cruel. Nobody can tell me again that they can't afford it in this economy.
Any POV that's Arya, when she's in Bravos, like, there are people hiring the faceless men. And it never says that they're, like, super rich. Yes, they're expensive, but it's not like you can't hire one.
There's a girl that's an actress that, you know, performs the red, not the red wedding, but the purple wedding is what it's called in the book. They act out the purple wedding, and she's jealous of the girl that, or the woman that plays Cersei, and hires the faceless men to kill her. So, and she doesn't make a lot of money. I don't guess. So I'm going to assume that if you're desperate enough, they'll see that and want to do it, even if it's not enough money.
If I had to guess, I would say Varys hired a faceless man to get Ned out.
That makes sense. He would have a lot of money.
There's just so many theories about Jaqen Hagar when the show was like on. People thought he was going to show up in season 8. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the actor was seen hanging around, and they just did that, I think, for buzz and rumor.
If you ever call me sister again, I'll have you strangled in your sleep.
Tyrion's whistling the Rains of Castamere again.
Why do you think he's whistling it this time? Because he feels good about himself?
I think so. I think he's proud to be a Lannister now because he's doing something. Even though he didn't want to be a Hand.
Yeah. And he knows his father acknowledged him, so he's proud to be a Lannister. Makes sense. And he's surprised because Varys is there with Shay. And no one's supposed to know who she is or where she is, but of course Varys knows. And Shay's not stressed about it at all. And Tyrion pours some wine. And he says, you should taste her fish pie. And Shay, I know. And Shay's like, I don't think Lord Varys likes fish pie. And then Varys is unbothered. He's like, how can you tell? And Shay's like, I can always tell. It's kind of funny.
So I don't really think he likes anything, though. Like, that's how I think.
Yeah, nah. I think he's asexual. I don't know I guess that's because he's a eunuch, I guess. But yeah, no, I don't think nah.
He's got more important things to worry about. Sex is not one of them.
Yeah, I mean, he's realm sexual.
Yeah.
He's basically there just to show Tyrion, hey, I know everything.
Basically.
What I really like, though, and this is one of my favorite lines from the show, and I quote it often, Tyrion is like, seeing this as a threat. And he says, if you threaten me again, I'll have you thrown in the sea. And Varys says, you might be disappointed in the results. The storms come and go. The big fish eat the little fish, and I keep on paddling. I love that line so much because you can apply that to so many things. And it's true of him, but it's also true in life. All these people are like doing all these things, and Varys is he's just paddling, and they take care of themselves. So I like that line a lot.
The things I do for love.
They get the terms of what Robb wants, and Cersei, of course, rips it up, and Tyrion's like, you've perfected the art of ripping up paper. I'm like, yeah, she has. I said it before he even said it, and I forgot he said that line. So I don't know. I like that part. But yeah, she basically is like, that's not going to happen. But they're going to give Robb his father's bones as a show of like respect, sort of like, hey, here you go. Like we're going to at least give you that. They're not going to give their sisters, his sisters away because, well, one, they only have Sansa and Arya's gone. So they also get but that was basically what I got from the scene. I like it. I like that. I don't like that she rips it up. She's just so disrespectful. But I like that they're gonna give at least Ned's bones back.
I don't want it. I never have.
They're still at Craster's camp. We have Sam and Ed and Grin. And I mean, it's kind of funny. They're talking about how you fart when you die. Yeah. So Sam is really obsessed with women. I mean, my God, dude. He's staring at literally every chick that passes by. He's just staring at them.
I know. I think it's funny. He's like,
it is funny.
Well, he's like, nothing like watching a woman walking away. Yeah. He likes looking at women.
So now we also know, Sam likes the booty.
Yep.
I don't know why we needed to know that, but we know.
That was Gilly that he was looking at too.
Yep. And Grin is like, I prefer watching them come towards me. And Sam's like, I'm sure that's nice too.
Poor Sam.
I mean, it's a lot of time spent on making us really understand that Sam wants a chick real bad.
But I like how loudly they're talking about this when Craster's just like, you can't look at my women.
Yeah, they're not afraid at all, and they are speaking really loud. And there's a scream, and it's Ghost going up to Gilly because I think she has some rabbits or something. And Sam is just like, no, Ghost, no. And Ghost, leaves. And so Gilly thinks that Sam's like a total badass.
I thought Ghost was so cute here because he looked really happy.
Well, he's like, you have something that I'd like to eat. And Ghost is like, why are you screaming? I don't want to eat you. Obviously, you have something else. And then Sam's just like, go on. And he's like, okay. It's cool because, like, now we know why Gilly pays attention to Sam. Because, I mean, it makes him look, it's a dire wolf that listens to him.
You don't know cold.
Okay, what do you think about the next scene? Because it happened really fast. Like, Sam's already like, hey, John, can we take her with us?
I like how John's like, you want to steal her. We're not supposed to look at them or touch them, and now you want to steal her. And he's like, she's a person. You can't steal a person. I'm like, yeah, that's true. But Sam says that we're supposed to protect them. Like, we're supposed to protect everything. And it's true. They are sworn to protect people, but they can't have women. So.
No, they cannot. Gilly's pregnant.
Yeah, she's pregnant. So, but I think John, it was good of him to say what he said because, I mean, I feel where Sam's coming from, but it would cause a lot of problems if they took one of Craster's wives.
Yeah, and it's like John's trying to tell him, man, we're not going back to Castle Black. Like, we're going on. There's just no way. And he's like, who's going to deliver the baby? And Sam's like, I could.
Well, and she's afraid. There's a reason why she's afraid because she couldn't say it, but we know that she's afraid because she's like, what if she has a boy? And then like she couldn't say that. She couldn't say exactly what was going on. And John was like, well, how am I supposed to do anything if you won't tell me?
And so again, it's brought up that something weird is happening with the boys.
Oh yeah.
You're learning to talk like a queen.
Not a queen. A Khaleesi.
So we go back to Essos, and it's still the Red Waste. Everybody looks absolutely miserable. Jorah takes a sip of water, and you get the feeling there's probably not much left. And you can hear a horse, and then you realize the horse is riderless. Jorah gets up, and there is a sack with an object in it with hair. and he picks it up, and the ponytail's been cut off. And Daenerys walks over, and Jorah's like, "You don't need to see this." And it is one of the people she sent out, and she's just completely baffled. She's like, "Why?" And Jorah says that Pono might be, or Jocko, because neither of them like the idea of a woman leading a khalasar. And she says they'll like it far less when I'm done with them. Put a pin in that, by the way. Put a pin in that. And then Eerie walks over, and she falls to her knees crying. And she's speaking Dothraki, and she says they killed his soul. And she said they butchered him like an animal. They didn't burn his body. He can never join his ancestors in the Nightlands. And Daenerys is so sad, and Eerie is just completely broken. And you know without a doubt it's Ricaro. And that hurts. Daenerys is just really trying to make her feel better. And she says that they will build a pyre. And she says, I promise you, Ricaro will ride with his ancestors tonight. So, it's bleak. Which is also why she really needs to get into Karth. Okay, I won't say it again.
What is dead may never die!
Next, we go to the Iron Islands, which is probably... Would you say the Ironborn and the Targaryens, you like equal, or you like the Targaryens like slightly better?
I like them equally, I think.
I think so too. So this is the first time we've seen them, so please talk about it.
So Theon is going to Pike. Well, he's going to head to Pike. So you get to see what it looks like, and it's really pretty. I really like how they did it. And then he's on a ship, and he goes down to the bottom of the ship, and there's a girl down there. She's like the daughter of the captain of the ship. And she basically, like, they're talking about the Iron Islands, and she's wanting to be like a salt wife. Now, a salt wife is different from a regular wife. The regular wives that they have, they don't really mention it in the show. They have rock wives. Rock wives are meant to, they're only allowed to have one, and they're meant to, well, technically, sometimes they can get away with more than one. I think Karen the Black's dad had two. I could be wrong. But they're meant for breeding. The rock wives are. Salt wife is completely different. They're somebody that they kidnap and they take, and they can have as many as they want. And she wants to be that. And he's like, nope.
Yeah, he's kind of brutal to her because he's like, when you smile, like, close your mouth. And I was like, Jesus.
She seems nice, just kind of not very bright.
Nah, I get the feeling she's lived on, a ship her whole life. And she doesn't, know a whole lot. And he's like her ticket out of there, but it ain't gonna happen.
Theon's not a warm and fuzzy kind of guy at this point. And I didn't mind the sex scene. See, scenes like this are fine. Like, it was interesting. And the end of this episode, I don't mind that scene either.
Like you said, it makes sense. If it makes sense, it's fine.
I looked up, so salt wives, if you have a lot of salt wives, you are seen as, like, really good on the Iron Islands, and also you have a lot of fertility. And guess how many salt wives Dalton Greyjoy had?
How many?
22.
Jesus Christ.
That's probably why I'm
Are you serious?
Yeah, he had 22. So I bet he was looked at as very nice. So it makes sense that they want to marry Alicent Hightower to Dalton in the show.
Is it the type of thing where, like, you have those salt wives, but you have to take care of all of them? Like, provide for them too?
I think you provide for them because the sons that they have with them can also have lands and titles.
Okay.
They can be an heir to things just like their regular trueborn sons. So I wouldn't say it's like having a paramour though, because they're low life people.
It's more like a flex. It's like, I've got 22 wives, and oh, by the way, I have the money to take care of all of them too.
Yeah.
So it's Stannis.
It's Stannis,
Okay.
yeah.
Interesting.
And I don't know how many. I think Euron has salt wives too, but I don't know how many.
God, look. I don't know if he follows that path. Just saying.
I think he wants one rock wife, and that rock wife is going to be Daenerys. That's what he thinks.
He thinks so. I think he's going to have a surprise, but we'll see one day. Maybe, probably not.
Oh, and also, she wants to go with him, and since he says no, like, oh, I have to. My life is ruined basically because my dad's going to think I'm a whore, and he's like, I didn't pay for you.
He's so arrogant. Well, right now. I mean, and she's in the book doing the same thing, just, trying to get off the ship because Theon has the captain's cabin. So I guess the dad's probably hoping that works out too. Well, it doesn't.
Do you know what I learnt losing that duel? I learnt that I'll never win. Not that way. That's their game.
Of course, we go to a brothel.
I was going to say, this one's not that bad, but it is.
I just put a note that says, ew. Okay, so Baelish is looking through peepholes, and there are adult acts going on. And this guy comes out, and he's pissed off, and he's like, this chick's crying. Like, you cost more than any other brothel, and I got a girl in here crying. Okay, so it's Ross. Ross is crying. And Baelish sits by her and asks, did he hurt you? Which, I don't think he was faking that. I think he was actually asking. And she says no. And she says, it's Megan. And he's like, who? And she's like, she works for you. And Megan is the one that had the baby killed. And the creepy thing is that Baelish keeps this really soft voice the entire time. And he basically tells a story of, you remind me of this other girl. And she was expensive because he got her from a Lysine pleasure house. But she cried all the time. And he tried, I guess, to figure out why she was sad or whatever. And she just kept crying. And she was a bad investment. So he doesn't like bad investments. So he gave her to a very wealthy patron who gave him a tremendous amount of money to let him transform this lovely, sad girl to use her in ways that never occur to most men. Which is terrifying. And he says that his losses were definitely mitigated. And it's a warning. But I will say this, he does give her the night off to grieve.
I just felt like it was a very manipulative scene. Yes, he does get her to have a night off, and that's nice. That's the only nice thing you could probably say about him there. But this episode made me hate him. So
yeah, if it wasn't Roz, though, I bet there wouldn't have been a night off.
No.
My brother has his sword, and I have my mind, and a mind needs books like a sword needs a whetstone.
Oh, yeah. Oh, this is your friend.
Yeah.
You got to talk about your boy. This your boy right here, Janice Slint. That's your man.
No. Yeah. So basically, it's an interrogation dinner. I mean, he gives them food, and it just reminds me of so many things. Like, I'm going to feast you, and then I'm going to ruin you. I love it.
Yep.
It's very cunning. Tyrion is
great.
So he's interrogating him about the children. And what's interesting is the City Watch is supposed to keep the peace, yet they murdered innocents. And he doesn't look at it that way, but that's what it is. And,
it is.
And he's pissed at Tyrion because he's questioning his honor. And Tyrion's like, I'm not so much questioning it, just denying its existence.
I know. I like that line.
Because I'm like, you're a City Watchman and you slaughtered children. Like, and you're eating good food, you're drinking good wine, and you're okay with what you did. That's basically what I got from the scene. He's basically okay with it.
Totally okay with it. Tyrion's trying to find out who gave the order.
Yeah.
He knows that, like, Janos Slynt's like a cruel, disgusting piece of shit. He doesn't want him over the city watch because he's handed the king, and Tyrion is completely disgusted at somebody that could just murder babies.
Janos isn't giving it really up, like it's obvious it could be the queen, but I mean, that's what you would think. I mean, me as a watcher, I thought it was her. But no, it was Joffrey, and it makes sense because Joffrey was wronged in that scene with her.
Tyrion is very savage on Slynt, and he even brings up, like, when he slaughtered Ned Stark's men, and Janos is like, that man was a traitor. He tried to buy my loyalty, and Tyrion's like, the fool. He had no idea you were already bought.
He's going to be sending Janos Slynt to the wall. Sir Bronn is the new Lord Commander of the City Watch.
Okay, let me ask you this. He asked Bronn, if somebody told you to go kill a kid, would you go do it? And Bronn's like, no. I'd ask how much. And then Tyrion has a look on his face that's like, great. I didn't, really improve much because this guy would kill a kid. Okay. That aspect of Tyrion right there, that gets lost a bit. And then, towards the end, he's supposed to be hero again. And it's too much back and forth, but I did really want to point out the fact that this proves that Bronn is not a good person at all, no matter how they try to make him funny. And there's absolutely no reason that he would ever be on the small council, master coin, or have Highgarden.
Well, yeah, I wrote that too. I wrote that this is not a good person but I didn't take it the way that I guess I didn't take it the exact same way. I was just like, Tyrion's probably like, yes, he's upset that he didn't change anything, but like at the same time, he's like, this guy's supposed to be my friend, and I picked a friend that would, gladly kill children.
You have no idea how crooked everyone around you is, I guess, is kind of what he's thinking.
I am Yara Greyjoy, daughter of Balon Greyjoy.
But next is the Iron Islands. And, like, we actually get to see, because he's off the ship now. And it's the dock, and there's just lots of people and stuff, and he's trying to get passage to Pike.
This old man's like, do you need a ride somewhere? And he's just like, or no, what are you holding? And he said oranges. I don't know why the heck they have oranges. Wine and the heir to the islands. And that guy doesn't even react to it. And he's like, excuse me. Like, he's so pompous in the scene because he thinks he matters, which he should, because he's the last living son of Balon Greyjoy, but he hasn't been seen in 9 years.
I mean, he looks so different. Like, he doesn't look like the people there.
No, because he's even his dad. I mean, when we get to that scene, his dad talks crap about his clothing. So, it's a mess. But he does end up getting somewhere. A woman comes up to him and decides to take him, and that's his sister.
He's all impressed because she recognizes who he is, so he thinks that, like, everybody knows who he is, when in reality, I'm sure he sent word that he was coming, so she's there to find out what type of person he is. And it's very controversial, the scenes after this. I actually forgot, because she has a horse, and she's in the front and he's behind her, which that in itself is very telling. I remembered that he tried to put his hand down her shirt. I did not remember that he had put his hand in her pants. I don't know why I didn't remember that, but I didn't. And I'm just like,
I did, because I remember when he talks about how he's like, this will be a story you can tell your grandchildren. And she says, this will not be a story for children.
I mean, I guess my brain just remembered that he went down her shirt and then blocked out that he actually had his hand in her pants.
Yeah,
So,
you don't think about, you don't want to think about that, but
no. And how the hell she just went along with, I have no idea.
I think the
But,
Iron Islands are open to stuff like that.
it's a Song of Ice and Fire, man. I actually love Yara very much. She's one of my faves, so I feel like she would go through something awkward like that just for the satisfaction of walking in and shocking the shit out of Theon, which is epic. All right, now I want you to talk about Balon Greyjoy.
Yeah, he's not exactly thrilled to see his only living son or his heir, because he's like, Ned Stark had him for longer than he did. Robb Stark wants him to join his fight, and he wants him to join, and if he joins and he helps out, he'll become king of the Iron Island, which I do like that. I think that's a great thing, but he doesn't like the Starks. He never has.
Yep.
But that's
exactly.
on him. That's on him. You're the one that decided to have a rebellion that didn't last, and then Ned Stark defeated you. Like, that's on you. And you had to give up. You didn't have any other kids. Like, I mean, you had a daughter, but your sons are dead. So
look, this has happened in battles in history. What Balon Greyjoy is doing right now is he is letting his pride and his anger make decisions for him. So instead of actually debating, siding with Robb, and becoming a king, he wants to get revenge on the North.
Yep.
And that is a huge mistake. He is letting his anger, because he failed, and his fragile little ego dictate what he's doing. And that is a huge mistake. And that's also one of the reasons why Balon Greyjoy is definitely not one of Andrea's favorites.
Well, and I kind of think, watching this episode again, I kind of think he has it in his head. So Ned is dead. Catelyn obviously wouldn't be in Winterfell, and I don't really think they think much of women in general, but he does let Yara lead the attack. So he does think of women in some way. But he would assume Catelyn's not in Winterfell. Robb is busy with the war. Ned is dead. There's children running Winterfell. He's like, I think this is going to be easy.
And that's a good point, because if Kat had remembered that the two Starks she left in Winterfell are children, maybe her ass would have been there.
I don't know. They're not even like 14. They're not even old enough to rule anything.
I'm going to write a thesis about how everything that goes wrong in A Song of Ice and Fire is Kat's fault. I think I could tie it all back to that.
I don't mind him making fun of how Theon is dressed. I don't mind it, because, I mean, yeah, he's a shit dad for doing that, but and Theon is proud of what he has, but he didn't pay the iron price for any of it.
And the fact, though, that he showed up dressed like that, like, dude, do you not know what your people are like? I would have thought he would have learned that.
It's disrespectful, I think. Yeah, so I don't mind that Balon talked shit about his outfits.
No, because Theon is arrogant, and he shows up there dressed like he's from the North with, like, gold and stuff. And, maybe he thought that would impress them, I guess, but nah. And I think the only reason Balon is supportive of Yara is that was his only choice.
Well, yeah, and he doesn't have any idea of how Theon was raised over at Winterfell. Okay, he might have some idea, because Ned Stark is pretty good, but he doesn't think of him as a son right now, so.
Yeah, and when he's on the horse with Yara, Yara looks at his hands. She sees he has soft hands.
Yeah.
And I think that's basically all she needed to know.
I shall take back the North from the thieves who stole it.
Next, we go back to Dragonstone. We have Davos and his son talking to Salador San.
By the way, that's how a pirate should look. Just saying.
Oh, God. Thank you for saying that.
I know he's a different culture, but, Euron, take some pointers, please.
How it could have fallen off so bad when obviously y'all know what a pirate's supposed to look like and look cool and say cool stuff.
Oh yeah, he's always funny when he's on screen. I love him.
I do too, and he doesn't have to say things like finger in the bum.
No, God, no.
I still can't believe that's even real.
If you have any advice at all, I would love to hear it. Advice? Does you like it gentle or rough? A finger in the bum.
Okay, so Davos is trying to convince Salladhor Saan to join Stannis' cause because he has 30 ships, and Salladhor Saan's asking all the right questions. He's like, why would I join? Stannis has the smallest army. And Davos sells it pretty well. He kind of basically says, like, Renly's never been in battle, like, he doesn't know anything, and then Joffrey's a kid, and he's not even supposed to be king, and Stannis is loyal, and all this stuff, but then it basically comes down to, alright, are you gonna make me incredibly, insanely rich? And oh, by the way, I want to bang the queen.
Davos is like, you can't just take her and do that. And he's like, I want to sleep with her. I don't want to,
He wants to romance the queen, which is funny. And I think he's being honest.
Yeah.
He's being honest. So Davos is like, yeah, man, I can't promise you that the queen's going to like you, but you're going to have a whole lot of money.
I just wanted to say that, when they say that Renly and Joffrey have never fought, yet they have large armies, people go to them even though they've never fought in battle. So to say that you have to be, in order to be a king, you have to know how to fight is ridiculous. So when I say Rhaenyra can rule 6 kingdoms without having to fight, she can.
Yes. Something I noticed.
Yeah.
So Davos is trying to basically say, do you want to do this or do you want to just keep being a pirate? And he says, do you want to spend your last few years on the sea stealing from Pentoshi cheesemongers? And I thought that was interesting because in the books, that's what Tyrion calls Illyrio. He calls him a cheesemonger and he's in Pentos. I would assume that's where they got it from.
Probably.
If they read the books.
And I also think that Davos is a really good hand.
Yeah, we love Davos.
He's better than Tyrion. Although
yes.
Tyrion for Joffrey is not that bad.
No. This is when Tyrion has sense. That leaves later. We have some pretty good dialogue between Davos and his son. It's interesting because he's very R'hllor. Very, very, very. And he's trying to convince his dad to learn to read, which is heartbreaking later. Because he wants him to read, I guess, like, whatever their Bible would be. Or scrolls or whatever. And Davos is just like, nah. And he says, Davos says, I wish I had a god, truly. I'm not mocking you. But I've seen men pray to every god there is. Pray for wind, pray for rain, pray for home, and none of it works. And Mathos says, but you always came home. And Davos says, I wasn't praying. And Mathos says, but I was. Every night you were at sea, I lit a candle and I prayed for you. It was sweet. And then Davos says that if you want me to have a god, fine. Stannis is my god.
Oh boy. I mean, yeah, I guess.
It's funny because he's making a point. He's basically saying, like, Davos is the type of guy, I'll believe it when I see it, okay?
Yeah.
I'll believe it when I see it, which he does later, and it scares the shit out of him. But at this point, he's like, if you want me to believe in something, I'll believe in Stannis because he raised me up and, gave me a chance and all this stuff.
He was very loyal. He's very loyal to Stannis.
He is.
Till the end.
And he is. And he's gotten Stannis 30 ships. So, impressive.
When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die.
Is Cersei and Tyrion.
Yeah, since you're talking about Janice Slit, you want to go ahead? She's mad he's gone, basically.
But that's because, like, if Tyrion explains why he sends them, because, I mean, he slaughtered children, and he's like, the queen slaughters babies. Like, that's kind of like what it felt like, but she didn't. She gives him, like, this look, and he's like, oh, it wasn't you, Joffrey. And she doesn't even defend, she defends him in a sense. She doesn't, like, say anything against it. She just says, well, he did what he needed to do. That really hurts.
When you find out, like, 100% she did not order that, but she does defend him. I don't think she liked it.
No.
Not this Cersei, this early on, you know?
Yeah.
She get maybe late. Well, obviously later she doesn't care. She just kills whoever. But at this point, she gives pause. So, I mean, she knows her son's a monster.
You know, yeah, she does. I mean, but that's her first son, so I kind of have to think of it like that. Like, you always love your first. I mean, you should love all your children, but you always love your first. And so that's the kind of vibe I get from her. But you know, she tells Tyrion that she doesn't care what he thinks, but clearly she does.
Oh, she does.
So she says that pretty loudly in this scene, and I'm like, girl, you are lying to yourself.
Yeah. Because she wouldn't have gotten defensive.
No, or that angry when she said it.
Yeah, and then some truth comes out. Because she says, I don't care what you think. You've never taken it seriously. You haven't. Jamie hasn't. It's all fallen on me. That's truth right there. Because she's sitting there thinking, you and Jamie have been able to do what you want. I had to marry Robert. I had to stay here. I had to make do with what I had. And she's very frustrated about the misogyny right there.
Yeah, I understand her there.
I do too. And it gives you a lot of clarity moving forward because, I mean, yeah, she's a queen, but she hasn't had a great time of it. And I mean, like later on, you know, when Tywin's telling her she's gonna marry again, like she's just like, no. And you can tell she's just freaked out. She's never been able to make any choices.
No.
And now Jamie's gone. She's savage to Tyrion at the end, though. My God. So she says, you're funny. You've always been funny, but none of your jokes will ever match your first one, will they? Back when you ripped my mother open on your way out, she bled to death.
I will never understand blaming him for what happened because he was just a baby. He didn't ask to be born. So it just kind of, I get that she's pissed because her mom's gone and she obviously was a mother's daughter or whatever. Like she was always for her mom. But it's really upsetting that she blames him for that.
Well, she's angry about that. And then, you know, Tyrion being like snatched up by Cat leads to Jamie being a prisoner. So she's seeing, like, you took my mother and you took my brother lover. And I'm just going to throw this in there. It was a widespread rumor that Joanna, which is their mother, left court because she was pregnant by Ares. Now, that's not mentioned in the show, but Cersei would have heard that rumor and she could hate him thinking, you know, you're not even a Lannister.
Well, no, but, well, technically he is because his mom is a Lannister.
Yeah, but they would just give her another reason.
I just,
you know,
it's just like Cat with Jon Snow. I just don't see the point in blaming a child that had nothing to do with anything. You know, like it's just ridiculous. I get it.
Oh, she does though.
I know why she's mad, but I don't get it. I mean, I understand why, like, her reasoning, like, I get why she is upset. I just don't understand the thought process of blaming a kid, I just don't get that.
She's not a good person because in the books, you remember when Oberyn is talking to Tyrion and he says that, they went to Casterly Rock and we're told that there's just like this freakish baby and it's just monster. And they go look and it's just a baby and Cersei pinches him. Like that's some stuff that you don't get in the show. But like she's hated him since he was a tiny baby. She abused him as a baby.
You're not cold, my lady.
Never. The Lord's fire lives within me, Jon Snow.
We're back at Dragonstone. And they are talking about who's where. And now, Stannis has a fleet. It's the painted table. It looks very dusty to me, but I guess nobody wants to dust it unless you consider what happens later, dusting the table.
I mean,
sorry, I had to. So, Stannis is not happy that the ships are pirate ships because you can't trust pirates. And, Stannis is all about balance and stuff. He doesn't like risk, but, he doesn't really have a choice. And Davos is like, look, once he knows he's going to get rich, we'll be fine. And Stannis is like, well, if he does his job, then he'll have a share. And he says, leave us. Melisandre, when Mathos passes by, she whispers and she says, death by fire is the purest death.
I don't know why I don't get that part.
Because he dies from wildfire and she knows, but why tell him?
I'm not sure.
So when he's about to die, maybe he'll be like, oh, okay, well,
Warning,
she said
I
that
guess.
hell, I don't know.
Because sometimes she'll do that. So maybe. I can't think of any other reason why she would just say it. It's not like she's saying it to just say it. I'm not sure what else.
We're just gonna chalk it up to her being creepy. So you want to talk about the next part since it's your table?
So she wants to give him a son because his wife is not giving him any sons or any more children. She's sick. She's weak. She's locked in a tower. And I'm like, she's not locked. She just prefers to be there. But my thing is, I don't like his wife, but I feel like this was a very rude scene and he didn't try to once stick up for her.
Okay, same, because there's no way Book Stannis would do this because he mentions, I took a vow, and then all she has to say is, I'll give you a son, and he just throws that out the window. It doesn't make sense.
I'm not a fan of this. I mean, I like the scene on the table, and I think it's really well acted, but I don't like how she's just talking crap about his wife and putting her down for, because it's her fault that she can't give him sons, or all she's given him is stillborns. It's not her fault. Now, again, I don't like Stannis' wife. I never will, but I will stick up for her here because I think it's rude, and nobody else is sticking up for her, so I might as well do it.
Well, you're right, because, okay, backstory. Stannis starved and boiled leather books to keep his wife alive when they were under siege. Okay? He loves her. Also, he's not just going to forget his vows and bang this red chick on a table, because in the books, he tells his men that if he falls, to put Princess Shireen on the throne.
Yeah.
Stannis is not obsessed with having a son in the books at all.
No, and I don't see him as having the hots for her in the books as he does in the show.
No, not at all. No, that's why I've told you over and over again, I want to know what happened from when Melisandre shows up at Dragonstone till Stannis, changes his banner to a flaming heart. I want to know, because he is so logical. She had to show a lot of stuff and prove a lot of things for him to be swayed. But I'm telling you, like, this scene, this is not the same Stannis that's in the books. That's all I have to say.
No, I don't mind the scene. The sex part, I don't mind that. The spicy stuff, I don't mind because it was interesting. Because he just like knocks her on the table, and
Yeah,
she's desperate because she's hot, and she, again, the promise of a son, which I'm like, how can she can design it, I guess, or the Red God can do it, but
he thinks it's an actual son,
yeah,
and it's not.
No, she manipulated him, but
Mm-hmm.
But on Aegon's painted table, can you imagine being Aegon the Conqueror creating this beautiful painted table, and years down the line, somebody from your bloodline is sleeping with somebody on it?
Okay, so there's always supposed to be a Stark at Winterfell. I need a new rule that there's always a Targaryen at Dragonstone.
Yes, because they don't do that on the table. As much as I believe Rhaenyra and Daemon do in the show, that's fine.
Andrea, our prince that was promised, Aurain Waters, would not allow anybody to do that to that table.
No, he wouldn't. Rhaegar wouldn't either. Oh, heck no.
Rhaegar Targaryen would not allow anybody to do that. But just in case people don't know, Aurain Waters is in the books. He's the bastard of Driftmark, and he takes Cersei's fleet. Well, before he takes the fleet, he convinces her to make more ships, and then he just takes them. Because he kind of looks like Rhaegar, and she had a thing for Rhaegar. So Andrea and I are very, very much supporters of Aurain Waters, the prince that was promised.
He's also a pirate king, and he's going to fight with Euron Greyjoy at Old Town. That's just what's going to happen.
Lord, please let Daenerys meet him. Please. I don't care if it's like just interaction, because thing is, Daenerys needs ships, and he's got them.
Yeah.
Please.
And they're giant.
Please.
Giant.
Yes. Ships. And my theory is the whole reason they're giant ships is because Aurain Waters is going to take his fleet over there, and that's how they're going to bring over the Unsullied and the Dothraki, with those big ass ships there.
Yes.
If we never get a book, that's always going to be my headcanon. Now, how she's going to react, I don't know.
Aurain Waters can fight Victarion, because Euron sent Victarion. Well, actually, he did. He sent Victarion Greyjoy to go get Daenerys, but then Victarion's like, oh, I'll get her, but she'll be for me, not for you. Aurain can go over there and fight him to get Daenerys.
Hell yeah. And by the time he gets there, Victarion's just going to be like some kind of molten, burnt, weird thing.
These men are all fighting for one person. It's funny. It's chaos. I love chaos.
Well, there's more chaos because, you know, the what is it? The dusky woman that's with Victarion. People say that Euron wargs into her.
Oh my god, I forgot about that. Poor Victarion. Oh god.
That's twisted enough for it to be accurate.
Oh, that's gonna be funny. Oh, that's gonna be funny. Well, you're from everybody at this point.
Yeah, if he's not them, then he just wargs into him, because apparently he's like the most wargy warg that's ever warged. I don't know. But
I believe that. I believe he can do that. He's gonna warg into a kraken too. Just watch.
He may turn into a kraken. I don't know. He may be a shapeshifter.
I love it.
I don't know. I know he's got a lot of knowledge.
Jon's gonna have so much competition. Jesus Christ. No, she's gonna be more interested in Jon.
Yeah, but that means Dario ain't gonna make it. I don't think it's gonna be like the show though. Like, she's not gonna leave him behind, you know, sad and stuff. I don't think he's gonna make it. But yeah, but the whole point of that is that Aurain Waters has a fleet, and he's the pirate that was promised. Jesus Christ.
Follow your favorite podcasters on all social media at Southern Mother of Dragons and at the Princess of Dragonstone.
It's the last part of the episode John is outside, right? He's sitting by a fire. Hello. Nobody was talking about how John looks in the fires, even in the show. He is the blood of the dragon. Anyway,
I'm glad you brought that up. Nobody ever talks about that, about John looking at fire.
In the books or the show. So it's like, he's obviously something. So he's staring at the fire and he hears a noise, and he looks around and he sees Craster running into the woods, back of the woods with a baby. He's got a baby with him. So of course John's just like, oh my God. So I'm going to follow him because that's a boy. That's not a girl. And I'm sorry, when they're running, when he's chasing after him, you hear like a bunch of movements, like ice breaking almost. Why couldn't they say that was them talking?
I don't know.
I mean, I want to say I'm not hearing things. I heard ice breaking. It wasn't.
No, I put a note. No, that's their language. That's them talking.
Yeah, why couldn't they say this was them talking? It sounded really cool. I never noticed it before.
Look, they dropped it after this. I don't know, but it gives it such a more creepy factor if you know that's language.
Because if you notice John's face, he's reacting to it.
He sure is.
So it's like, what the, he's like, it's really good acting. He doesn't even speak here. It's really good acting. This is a really good scene with him. And I never noticed it before because I was like, he's really reacting to the sounds. I'm not hearing things. Kit's hearing it. So, he sees Craster offer the baby to this White Walker, and it's a disturbing scene. I don't like. It's like how did they describe it? It's like they're offering it so they can be protected and they won't get attacked, right? That's why they do it.
That's it. Yes, that is it. Which means Craster can understand what they're saying,
and they don't elaborate on that.
No, we don't find out.
Well, and John is freaked out and running away, and then he gets he doesn't run away. He gets hit in the head by Craster. Yeah.
Like, the fact that they have their own language, like, just gives it so much more, and you're right. I hate that was just abandoned.
Because that was really cool sounding. I was so happy that I heard that, and I didn't notice it before, ever. I've watched this several times, never noticed it before, and now. But I did notice it in the very first episode of first season. They do that sound in the first season, too.
Yeah, which, if they did it twice, it kind of makes you wonder why they didn't just, like, hint, like, oh, yeah, I heard them talking. Like, John could have just said that. Like, later on, they speak. I heard them talking. It sounds like ice cracking. Like, that would have been creepy as hell.
Well, I really like these 2 episodes. They're really good.
Yes.
I don't like the ending of the first one, but it still makes you realize that there's a lot of messed up things happening.
Yes. These 2 episodes are setting up a whole lot.
Yes.
And they were very well done. So yeah, I'm doing 10 out of 10 because, I mean, this is still great.
Yeah.
Because this is politics, and this is not easy because they're getting people in certain places right now. So I think it was really well done.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
As always, it's Amanda here to say thank you to all of our listeners and to ask that if you liked this week's episode, leave us an honest rating. And if you'd like to continue the discussion, please feel free to comment on our post over at our Girls Nerd Out podcast account on Instagram. If you're interested in buying any of our merch to support the podcast and so that we can continue to release weekly episodes, then check it out over at girlsnerdoutpodcast.com. Our podcast logo was designed by Chairman Bilal over on Fiverr. Our podcast merch was put together by me, myself, and I at Southern Mother of Dragons on all social media. If you're interested in my personal merch, check it out at southernmotherofdragons.com. And the designs for that merch were put together by Ryuchi Studios on Etsy after an in-depth back and forth discussion with me to find the perfect merch for me and my loyal supporters. The music played while I tell you about all the ways you can support us and the production of the podcast is Kawaii Girl by Pumpkin Pie. Thanks for listening.
Hey, this is Andrea.
And this is Amanda. And you just listened to
Girls Nerd Out.